Once again, it could all come down to Senator John McCain. After sinking his party's hopes of repealing the Affordable Care Act earlier this year with a dramatic thumbs down, the fate of a tax overhaul may now sit in the hands of the Republican from Arizona. In recent days, Mr. McCain has been fairly tight-lipped about his views on the tax overhaul speeding through the Senate, saying he sees some problems with the existing bill but is waiting for a final plan before making a decision. Asked about what concerned him about the Senate tax bill this week, Mr. McCain replied tersely, "A lot of things. Even those who know Mr. McCain best are unsure how he will vote, but if history is any guide, Republicans have reason to worry." Mr. McCain has voted against big tax cuts before, including two that passed under another Republican President George W. Bush. In that case, he bucked the majority of his party on the grounds that the 2001 and 2003 cuts overwhelmingly benefited the rich. A widespread criticism of the current Senate legislation and the bill that has already passed the House. Mr. McCain is also a deficit hawk and could find it hard to swallow a tax cut that will add around $1.5 trillion to the federal debt over 10 years. With their slim majority in the Senate, Republicans can lose no more than 2 votes, and several others are on the fence. "I don't know," Douglas Holtz-Eakin, policy advisor to Mr. McCain's 2008 presidential campaign, said when asked how his former boss would vote on the tax overhaul. "For most people there are going to be things in there they don't like, and the question is what is preferable, the status quo or the bill?" In 2001, as Republicans forged ahead with a $1.35 trillion tax cut, Mr. McCain became one of 2 Republican senators to vote against the bill's passage. He said he could not accept that changes to the bill lowered the top individual tax rate to 35% and delayed tax relief for married couples. "We had an opportunity to provide much more tax relief to millions of hard-working Americans," Mr. McCain said in a speech on the Senate floor. "But I cannot in good conscience support a tax cut in which so many of the benefits go to the most fortunate among us, at the expense of middle-class Americans who most need tax relief." 2 years later, Mr. McCain voted against another round of tax cuts. In his remarks in 2003, Mr. McCain again cast doubt on the need to use billions of federal dollars to cut taxes for our nation's wealthiest. The deal-breaker that time was that his fellow lawmakers would pass such cuts while rejecting legislation that would have allowed members of the military to get tax breaks on profits from selling their homes. "Politics ruled the day," he said ruefully. But Mr. McCain had been a tax cut skeptic well before those votes. After Republicans swept control of Congress in 1994, he was fretting about being fiscally responsible and urged his fellow lawmakers to heed the lessons of President Ronald Reagan. "I think we would be making a terrible mistake to go back to the 80s, where we cut all of those taxes and all of a sudden now we've got a debt that we've got to pay on an annual basis that is bigger than the amount that we spend on defense," Mr. McCain said.